There's one last thing that I want to do. I want to go over what I think are the best value tournaments at the World Series, like a World Series type primer type of video. So, if you like this video, hit the like button, please, and subscribe to the channel. Let's take a look at here some of the what my take is on some of the best World Series poker events. If you're a sort of a casual no limit player, or even if you play no limit quite a lot, you know, there are two events that sort of stick out at me in terms of where you get your best bang for your buck and for time as well, especially if you're a winning cash game player. Because when you look at this and it's like, man, say you're not going to play any, you know, large no limit tournaments, right? So you're sticking to maybe the 1500s. I mean, even if your ROI is 300%, or let's say your ROI is, well, that would be insane. Let's say your ROI is 100%, right? Like equaling like a markup of like 2.0. So that would mean that for a 1500 event, you would be winning about 1500 minus whatever the tournament entry fee is. Maybe it's like $100, so maybe like 1400, something like that. I think that's how they do it. All right, I'll keep it simple and let's just say you win 1500. And let's say also too, like on average, you are playing in the event for say 15 hours. Well, that's $100 an hour, but 100% ROI is like one of the top ROIs that you could ever have, if not unachievable. So when you start getting down to like a 50% ROI, where you could charge like 1.5 markup, which most of the community thinks is absolutely ridiculous, then you're looking at it if you're playing on an average of 10 to 15 hours and you're only making $750 out of the tournament, you're looking at like $50 an hour, if not lower. So from an hourly perspective, playing in $1,500 tournaments is not going to be the way to go if you're a winning cash game player. Now, obviously, there's a lot of variance and you can bank one at the end. So I'm trying to bring this back to how I approach it. And if you don't want to make yourself nuts and you don't play a ton of tournaments, what are the best ones to play? I think the Millionaire Maker is by far the number one best one to play. And the reason being is because it's a regular $1,500 tournament. It used to not be re-entry. It gets the most amount of entries. I want to pull something up here so that I can see here what it got for 2019, 2019 results. But I want to say that it gets something like 9,000 entries. It gets like 9,000 entries, and it's a 1,500. There are two flights of it, so you can actually re-enter one time per day. So I think that that's really key because especially if you were going to go in for one weekend, you get the most bang for your buck because you could actually enter up to three other times besides your first entry to get into basically that tournament, which is just amazing. I mean, you're going to have a lot of recreational players in there. It's great bang for your buck. It's a pretty weak field, and you can enter it up to three times. So I'm taking a look at the entries. There are 8,800 entries in the Millionaire Maker. So that's number one. I think the second one would be probably the 1K double stack in terms of value. Again, I believe that is either unlimited reentry, any event where you can re-enter and just be there where you don't have to waste time is going to be really good in terms of sheer value. Of course, the Monster Stack is another event that is a good event for cash game players. You get more chips, but it's more time and it's also a freeze out. So if you're trying to maximize basically on your time, if you're going to take one trip to Las Vegas, the Monster Stack weekend probably isn't necessarily the best weekend because you can only enter one time and it takes longer. It takes longer to play. Now, you want to convince yourself that, oh, yeah, but I'm deep stack, pre-ante, and I'm going to I'm going to own all the tournament players. Come on. You're kidding yourself. Yeah, you'll have an advantage over them pre-ante. That's not where the expectation is in tournaments. It's not pre-ante, okay? And this is why I usually don't even show up to tournaments pre-ante. It's all towards the end. It's all about playing like, shorter stack poker, being able to manipulate, say, like 20 to 50 big blind stacks properly. It's not about playing pre-ante. Are you going to be able to catch some punts? Maybe, if you're lucky, but you're kidding yourself that you're going to have so much more of an edge in the monster stack because, it's deeper stack. So I hate to, knock down that misconception for people. But I think the Millionaire Maker is really the best one in terms of a value for time, followed by one of those 1K double stacks on the weekend, and then possibly the monster stack. Of course, the main event is awesome. If you can play the main event, which is a 10K buy, and if you can get into the main event, it's great. I would say that I would say that the main event in terms of skill level is probably the same as the Millionaire Maker. You really There's a lot of similarities between the Millionaire Maker and the main event besides the price points. You have to basically be able to manage your table draw. And what I mean by that, and it's a really interesting function of both events, is that you will get tables that are really, really bad, meaning that there are a lot of tough players. And then you will get tables that are really, really good, where there's a lot of weak recreational players. And then you'll get a mix in between. Sometimes you'll get a table where and there's one tough player and a bunch of, fishy guys. Sometimes there'll be 6 tough players and a couple of fishy guys and you. I've seen it all. It runs the gamut. You get moved more in the Millionaire Maker. So managing the table draw actually, I think, is more important in the main event because throughout the tournament you're deeper and you're going to be at the same table for longer. Sometimes you have to settle in and actually look in the future days. Look at day 1, look at day 2. I think it's an important part of live tournament play that people overlook. Find out the breaking order. You can ask the floor guy. You can look at the TV screen and it will put up the breaking order. If you're at a tough table and you know the table is going to break like next level, well, then you don't have to take the type of gambling chances maybe that you would be if you were short stacked on day 3 and you're at a tough table and your table's not breaking the entire day. Where you're like, well, I'm not going to pass on this very, very slightly EV spot because there isn't going to be really another slightly highly EV spot. Whereas, like I said, if your table's breaking and you have a lot of chips, you can pass. You can sort of hunker down, not play many hands. You can go through different sort of styles of play throughout the tournament based upon the other people that are at your table. The Millionaire Maker, like I said, to a lesser extent, because of the fact that you're shorter throughout and you are basically moving more often. Now, I have a lot of experience in going deep in these gigantic, gigantic fields. Take a look at my profile at WSOP.com. I got 9th in a 1500 no limit back in 2007 on the ESPN final table. The first year the Millionaire Maker went off, I got 16th out of like 9,000 people for like 59,000. A couple of years later, I got 27th in the Millionaire Maker out of 9,000. And then, of course, last year, I got 4th in the Monster Stack, which was very nice because I had 100% of myself for 356,000, 4th out of whatever it was, 7 or 8,000 people. I entered the Monster Stack, and people on CLP can actually confirm this. Basically, in the last level that you could enter, I was playing a cash game, and I entered with 28 blinds. If the cash game had been a good cash game, I probably wouldn't have played it because I was a little bit fed up with tournaments. I was kind of tired, but my cash game sucked, and I knew that if I got a double up or I could manage my stack, I'd be right back up there at the average, which I was. So I started the Monster Stack with 28 blinds, and I got 4th basically in the event. Main events I've cashed 3 times. This past year, in 2010, and then in 2007, I made a pretty deep run and I got like 115th place. So I do have experience in these sort of long fielded events, but that's how I'd say like I said, you should approach them. The small events, like the Big 50 and the Colossus, here's the other thing that I haven't brought into this, right? I hate waiting in line. Like it takes an emotional toll on me. I also don't like crowds. I don't like the shenanigans of the first weekend. I feel like, as a recommendation, if it's your first time going to the World Series and you're like me, skip the fucking first weekend. Go to the Millionaire Maker the second weekend. It's going to be so much more enjoyable. When you play in the Colossus types events, big 50s, all those sub 1K events, number one, take a look at your ROI, even if we were to say you had 100% ROI, right? Well, now when you're looking at the time of that, 100% of 565 is 500, average of 10 hours, the best ROI in the world, right? You're not making that much money per hour. I also don't want to sit in line for 4 hours. That also has to be a part of the event. If you were actually looking at making money, if you have to stand in line for 4 hours and then have to play on average of 10 hours, that's not 10 hours, that's 14 hours. And for me, like I said, I can't stand it when the World Series has been going on since 2005 and they don't have a better way in some of these events. It tilts the fuck out of me. I don't tilt at the poker table, but I tilt in line. Or like when I go over to the diamond area for registration and there's a big event going on and 2 of the 8 windows are open because the cashiers are on lunch at 12:30 p.m., right before like one of the biggest registrations of the summer. Oh yeah, the cashiers are on lunch. So shit like that just it makes me like, it takes me out of my mental zone, and that's why I don't like to play in those events. That's why I would skip the Colossus. I would skip the big the it's a shit show. Yeah, you're going to be short the entire time. Yes, you can re-enter. I mean, maybe one of the ways to maximize your time is doing a thing where you just late reg every single one of those and just sort of short stack it, because once you double through, you're going to be at the average anyways. They're usually 10-handed. And then fighting with the crowds to like go to the bathroom at break with like 5 or 6,000 people. I'm not like a huge fan of that, or whatever it is, 3 to 4,000 people. I just think that if you were going to ask me what are the best weekend events to play, I would say Millionaire Maker, second weekend. Then after that, the 1K double stack that next weekend. And then possibly, like I said, if you want to play, if you want to play deeper stack, the monster stack. I will say at the end of the monster stack, there were a lot of tough players. I was very surprised. Like that entire final table was loaded. Everybody had over like 100,000 in wins. In terms of other events, like limit events, the 1,500 limit events are very, very soft. I don't like them because there's not really much of a prize pool. And usually when you get to like day 2, you have like 6 or 7 big bets and it's just one hand. It's just a luck fest. Limit tournaments are kind of dumb. I think that there's a lot of luck involved in them. I've made 3 WSOP '08 final tables, I want to say. And I still don't even like them that much. I am going to play the 10K '08. This year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the 10K '08. I'm going to play my specialty event, which is a 1,500 '08 mix, which they put at the front of the series. That's an event that I basically am almost always going to cash with a re-entry. I'm 4 for 4 going deep in it. It's just the structure of that event and my experience in '08 and it being a mix of limit and pot limit. I would say that I probably, with a re-entry, probably a favorite to cash 70-80% of the time, I would say, with the structure of that event. So I'm definitely not going to skip that one. And then I'm going to play, if I can, the Millionaire Maker. Unfortunately, it's opposite that. And then I'm just going to play the main. I mean, that's it. We're going to do our CLP meetup for people who are CLP subscribers, and that's basically it. I'm still waiting on the 2,500 OE if the schedule ever comes out from the World Series, when that is. But yeah, I mean, that's my take on the World Series.